This video, I'm going to show you the 3-step process to shifting your identity, which is controlling your life situations, and how that will then transform your life. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 3-step process, 1, 2, 3, to be a better version of you. Now, a better version of you implies that you're not already whole and complete already, but this has to do with understanding our identity, our self-image, who we think we are, and how who we think we are, the way that we see ourselves is then projected out based on our vibration, which our vibration is a combination, I like how that rhymes, of how we think, feel, and act. Think, feel, and act. That is going to determine, and that especially in regards to how we see ourselves, is projected out to other people. Other people pick up on those cues and then respond to that energy we are putting out. So if we are in a position of believing that things always happen to us, that people are always mean to us, we think, feel, and act that way. Our body language maybe even is shown a certain way to where we are depicting that subconsciously. Other people pick up on that energy and then respond to us depending on that. So if you want to change the way other people perceive of you, you must first off change your self-image. Part of that could be understanding the identity, or a summary of that would be the identity and the way that you see yourself, because that is the way people are responding to you. And everything in your life is a reflection of the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as able to only make $50,000 a year, I use this analogy a lot, then you are going to be thinking equal to making $50,000 a year. You're going to feel like you deserve only $50,000 a year, and your actions will also link up with maybe $50,000 a year. You will accept a job that pays $50,000 a year. Even if you had a sales commission job and you believed and you thought, I'm going to make $100,000 this year, what would happen is if you didn't change your self-image, you would somehow sabotage yourself or find yourself coming up to blocks that keep you from attaining that. Now, the reason being is our self-image is like a cybernetic mechanism. I have a thermometer on that wall right over there. It's set to 76 degrees. It looks just like this. And anything that happens, the door opens, it heats up, it cools down, the AC kicks on because the thermometer is a cybernetic mechanism. Your body, your self-image is a cybernetic mechanism. The reason many people are trying to attract things, they say, I want to make $100,000 a year, but their self-image says I can only make $50,000 a year. That's why it doesn't happen, because the identity, the self-image, the ego will do everything it can to remain consistent to the way that you define yourself. Say it one more time. Your ego will do everything within its power to remain consistent to the way that you define yourself. Now, these filters sometimes come off. You ever see someone that's a very shy person, but then they drink alcohol and now all of a sudden they're really loud? That filter went off. The filter of the identity of them saying, I am a shy person, I am quiet, I don't speak out of turn. That goes away, and then they're more able to express themselves. Now, I'm not claiming that alcohol is the way out. Definitely is not. But what I'm saying is these filters are interchangeable. How we think, feel, and act will change depending on how we feel and the kind of state that we're in. But in this video, I'm going to show you 3 steps to becoming more aware of this, because when you change these 3 steps, your whole entire life will begin to change. You see, one of the reasons, the epiphany I had the other day was I was making a podcast episode, and it was on self-image, understanding that when we change our self-image, we then transform our life. And I had this epiphany. The epiphany was, most people that go through what is called the spiritual awakening have such a profound change in their life because they, at the core, are becoming aware of their old ego, their old identity. And by becoming aware of it, it changes their self-image. Now, when you change your self-image, you change your life. Instead of seeing yourself as a 3D physical human, that's all that I am, I'm a human having a human experience, spiritual awakening says I'm a spiritual being having a temporary human experience. It changes the identity, and therefore everything on the outside begins to change according to that. So that's why the self-image is the key to changing your entire life. And in this video, I'm going to share that with you. Now, the first step has to do with simply awareness and letting go. Now, the reason this is 90% of people, almost 100% of people, aren't even aware of their self-image. If you ask them, maybe they can come up with something, but people are not aware of their vision for who they are. They're not aware of the way they see themselves. And they're not aware of the story they've been telling themselves about who they are. You see, we go through life. We have these little experiences. Something happens. Somebody calls you a name. Your parents treat you a certain way. We then internalize those meanings and think that this is who I am. I'm not worthy because this happened. Or this person, I was embarrassed in front of class. I'm an awkward person. We, in the past, gave situations meaning that then were kept on autopilot, running themselves over and over and over again, and we haven't become aware of it, so therefore we think, feel, and act consistent over and over and over again, depending on that level of identity and the meanings we gave things in the past. So even if somebody told you, maybe you say, well, I didn't give it that meaning, my dad gave me that meaning, or my mom gave me that meaning, or this person, this ex-boyfriend or girlfriend gave me that meaning. You had to agree to it at a certain point. And when you agreed to it, you internalized it. Now, if you haven't seen or listened to that podcast episode yet, I'm going to go ahead and link it in the top of the description box below. It's one of the most powerful, probably pieces of content I've made. I really get into it. It's about 40 minutes long. You can listen to it while you're at the gym. You can listen to it while you're driving, whenever you want. But if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet already, I do new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. And they're all specific podcast episodes. So check that out if you haven't already. And in general, what I am mentioning is the power of understanding these agreements we've made in the past about who we are. Now, I had a certain identity. Like when I look to my own life, everything in my life that is transformed has been because I've had an identity shift. An identity shift. It's this process that I call identity shifting. Understanding how we shift our identity from one way, seeing ourselves in one way, and then seeing it in a different way. So one way, we have a certain story we tell ourselves about who we are. I'm able to make $50,000 a year. Then you say, oh, I want to make $100,000 a year. But what we must first off do is become aware of the story that we're telling ourselves that is keeping our reality on autopilot. And then once we become aware of it, what we can eventually do is observe it and see that it is a false sense of identity. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. It's something that we internalize, but it doesn't necessarily have to be true. All of these stories and beliefs that we tell ourselves, we're going to use for a certain period of time, but eventually we give them all away because we are actually infinite spiritual beings having temporary human experiences. Even the version of you that's going to be, I'm making $100,000 a year, eventually you're going to move beyond that. And that will be your version now of this version. Like, that's the old version of me. I know now I can make $200,000 a year. You see the analogy here? So you have to first off become aware of what the story is that you're telling yourself, and you have to take complete, utter responsibility for it. Even if someone did it to you. You know, I had a painful past growing up, but that led me to waking up. I changed my story. You change the meaning of the story you give yourself. People knocked you down, rejected you. The first girl you ever asked out rejected you. What did you do with that story? Change the story. Don't tell yourself a lie like, oh, that girl really loved me, blah, blah. No. Instead, see it as a new meaning. That happened so that I could love myself more. Now I feel more loving of myself. That job that you got, that the people that fired you from that job, that boss that fired you, it wasn't a job you really cared about. You changed the meaning. You're like, now I can find a job I am passionate about. Change the meaning that you give these core things. What you'll notice is that there's like, I'd say 5 or 10 main things that happened in your past, memories that developed your story and your identity. And when you become aware of those, you can then change the meanings. Simply by being aware of it. You become aware of it, you can then change the meaning. It's just I was unaware, so you were experiencing it over and over and over again, and your reality was a reflection of how you think, feel, and act. Now, the next step is actually really simple. Normally, we're going to tell ourselves a story. Well, in order to go from 50,000 to 100,000, I got to do all these things. I got to make it really hard, make it very resistant. The key is to just be. Give yourself permission to be this version of you. to find other people that are that way, that are making that kind of money, to be in their energy field, to give yourself permission to be the kind of person that is this version of you. What are the habits of that version of you? What are the actions of that version of you? How does that version of you walk? How does that version of you talk? Pay attention, use your imagination to bridge these two realities and simply give yourself permission to be this version of you. And when you give yourself permission to be this version of you, what will end up happening is you start to wire in that vibrational resonance and it becomes more of who you are. And then what will happen is other people outside of you will begin to then respond to you depending on that way that you are showing up in the world. So if you want other people to view you as more confident, you must first off be confident with yourself. If you want other people to help you to love you more, you must first love yourself and even love other people. People will only perceive you that which you are embodying. Now, the thing that I encourage you to look at is how you are being. Understand the level of identity here. You do things because it's who you are. You see the difference of that? So, for example, huge shift for me was I used to see myself as working a 9-to-5 job that I hated. I said, you know what? I'm just going to be a full-time YouTuber. Before I even have the outer reflection of being a full-time YouTuber, I made video every single day. I made a video every single day for a month. Since now, it's been almost 3 years. But initially, that's what I did. And I wasn't making a daily video so I could get more YouTube subscribers so that I could leave my job. I was making a daily video because I was being who I really am. I identified it. I used my imagination. I was able to wire it in. And then by being that version of me, I was able to then embody it, and then eventually my outer reality reflected it. But I first off had to be in that vibration. I had to understand that that's who I am. I'm not doing it. Most people do things because it gets them somewhere else. The key is to do things for the sake of doing it because it's at the level of who you are. It's at your vibrational core. My vibrational core is expressing these videos. I get into such a flow state that it's very easy for me to do this. You'll say, how do you do videos every single day? Well, it's who I am. I don't know how to explain it. When you get to the level of being, when you create from the being level, it's much more powerful than creating from the doing level. Being, it's like being present to the moment, enjoying the process, doing what you're passionate about. That will put you in the being state. So what you do is you focus on the identity of that version of you and you focus on wiring it in. And then this third step is simply this. Repetition. Get those reps in. The more consistent you do it, the easier it becomes. The more consistently you do this, the more you wire in this new identity. This identity has simply had a repetition of affirmations, a repetition of thinking, a repetition of feeling, a repetition of acting that has kept that identity in lock. It is the path of least resistance. Neurons in the brain that fire together, wire together. You have fired the neurons in the brain that say, I am this type of person, I feel this way, and I act this way over and over again. And what you must simply do is make the choice to be this version of you with repetition. Stop telling yourself a story that it has to be forever, it has to take forever. It doesn't have to. It can be as simple as you make it. And the key is just giving yourself permission to be that version of you. If you be, act, feel as that version of you, eventually your outer reality will begin to change. But the key to this, the caveat, is you cannot need the outer reality to change first before you really give yourself permission to be it. If you say, oh, I have to paint every single day, then have an art gallery studio, then I can be an artist, then you're going about it backwards. You are the artist. And because you are the artist, you naturally think, feel, and act similar to being an artist. I did that with YouTube. I think, felt, and acted as a YouTuber, knowing that's who I am, and then eventually the outer reality changed and people started to subscribe to the channel, and now it's grown to where it is. So, just to recap this, become aware of your old identity, the old story you tell yourself. It's an illusion. This is also an illusion, by the way. But this version of you, with that story you tell yourself, with the way that you show up in the world, become aware of that self-image. And then what you do is you're aware of it, you decide to let it go. It served you. It served you to this point to where you now watch this video and you're aware of your self-image. It served you. Change the meaning of those core experiences in the past. Parents divorced, you thought you weren't worthy. Parents divorced so that you could have 2 different birthday presents. Okay? Change the meaning you gave things. You give a negative meaning, my parents divorced, it means I'm not worthy, I probably caused it. That's what we give it as a kid. But instead you realize you could change the meaning of it. Your parents divorced, so you could have 2 birthdays, okay? You don't just have 1 birthday over here. You got this birthday over here. So it's all the way that you look at it. If you change these meanings, you then change the emotional response that you have for it that's keeping you within a certain bandwidth of information with a reality that is equal to how you think, feel, and act. Start to give yourself permission to feel worthy and know that the more you do that, the more you change these old meanings, is the more you change your life. So then be that version of you. Give yourself permission to be in the vibration of how you prefer to be. Understand you do things because it's who you are, not because it gets you anywhere else. I simply wired in and was a full-time YouTuber before I was a full-time YouTuber. And now I'm getting ready to go to the next level where I'm going to start doing live events and be in front of a large number of people in person rather than just online. Well, guess what? I'm going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to be being that version of me, wiring it in, knowing that my outer reality will eventually begin to reflect that. And then repetition, wire it in. Powerful way to wire it in is to do it in the 24 hours you have in a day. Do something every single day that wires it in. For me, that's making a video a day. For you, it could be writing. It could be doing a podcast every day. It could be you doing something you're passionate about every single day, 24 hours. Also, I have techniques. I share more in that podcast episode if you want to learn more about the repetition side of it. That's in the top of the description box. It'll show you how to, before you go to bed, there's different ways of repetition, wiring this in, this level of identity. Nonetheless, these is, out of all the content I teach on YouTube, I believe that this is the most powerful information that I share. And if you learn this, then your life will change. It's that simple. So it has to do with identity shifting, understanding who you are, at a higher level. I mean, you're an infinite spiritual being, but you can play small, you can play big. I'm showing you how to play big, and that's what you learned in this video. So do this, apply this, and watch how your life begins to change. Also, if you haven't already, hit the notification bell. It's the only way you see daily YouTube vids that I do. I got a lot more good stuff like this coming. I'm excited to share it with you. All you got to do is hit that little notification gear. You just hit that button, boom, done. Subscribe if you haven't already as well. If you could smash that like button. I'm going to start saying at the beginning of the video, smash that like button. If you smash it, that'd be really cool. You just smash it. That's part of who you are, you know what I mean? You're just someone that smashes the like button. Anyways, I'll see you later. As always, peace, much love, and namaste.